Welcome back, everyone. This is JFace Games, and what we're doing is we are going through the beta creation of characters, and hopefully you're keeping up with the character creation thus far. So far, we've only done one. We've done the Defender, but hopefully you're seeing the Defender and you say, okay, I get it. I see where we're going. And now we're going to move into, I think, the Striker, right? Once again, if you don't know where this information is, all of these will be, obviously, you'll be able to technically skip the videos and see these. And if you don't want to watch this whole video, it might be a little lengthy, you can just skip to the end and kind of get an idea. The idea being that in game design, if you come here, this is in the About section of our YouTube channel, you can see where the rules are kind of being fleshed out for this. And this is under the beta section. Eventually I'll have a nice little PDF for this so that you can print these off and you can kind of play. But today we are talking, or right now, we're talking about the Striker. I think we're going to go with the Striker. So this is just someone who has gone primary Striker. I don't know if they're going to have a secondary. Maybe. We'll find out in a second. You know? I don't 100% know what I'm going to do. So first we're going to have attributes again. Defender. Whoops. Defender, Striker, Controller, Leader. This person is definitely gone barely going to be Leader. I'll say they're D4 Leader or D4 Controller. And then Striker, this is their bread and butter, D8 plus 1. Let's say this person went Defender, right? Let's make this a D6 as well. So somewhere in this is going to make up for this, because the Defender had a D4. This person only has a D. No, I'm going to do D4. Right now I'm going to do baseline. No, he's not a leader. D3. So at some point in time, that means that this person is going to have more points. Once we actually figure out how many soul points someone can get, I have no idea at this point. Let's make this yellow. Why not? All right, so now, backgrounds. Well, let's say this person was a pit fighter. That sounds cool. Pit fighter, 2, not 4. And this person was also a circus performer? Why not? This person would be, you can obviously see that they can probably lie and perform, act, being both a pit fighter and a performer. So I like that. So 2, maybe that's a 3. Maybe that's where they make up some of those points. They got a little extra points and they don't just have the 5. We'll see. No idea. Just do what I like. Soul points, well, let's say they also have 30, because it doesn't matter if they have the same number as the Defender, because the Defender powers just might be cheaper, and therefore they don't tank out as quickly. And then we have power feats. Oh, the other thing we need to add in is that there were basic actions that we had determined for every class. So let me put in those basic actions real quick. I don't remember what all of them were. So let me pull those up. I've got them. Okay, here we go. Just so, because these are eventually going to be character sheets. So I want to be able to say, oh, you can just go to this. You know, you can see it all on the same page. So you defend a friend. Push, pull, grapple, trip. Aid or help. Called shot. I'm just gonna say called shot. And I started thinking about what a called shot is recently. I know that we had a debacle when I was first putting these rules down. That a called shot, at that point in time, I didn't know what it was gonna be. It sounded cool. It sounded like something a Striker basic attack would do. But I never really figured out something. What I think would be really cool is that called shot ends up being like every monster you design has different features, right? And so different features might have different vulnerabilities, right? So let's say like Cyclops, for instance. If you hit that Cyclops eye, he's got a real problem, right? So called shots might be ways to trigger special disabilities or special actions on monsters. And so that makes it more fun for the DM to design monsters now, because not only could you have, I think this is a nice A while back, we talked about possibly creating combos on monsters, which I still love, and I still going to add in that at some point in time, I think. But I think that was on the video where I talked about Lord of the Rings Online. And so I still like the idea of doing combos. But this is a real simple RP way of building that in, right? And so now you have this called shot concept, and you can change how difficult or easy it is to do these kind of called shots. But I think that might be something cool, right? It's a little special little RP kind of action. So anyway, so you have these basic actions. If you want to see how those work, you can go to the character page or whatever it is, the basic player combat page, right? So now we go into the powers and the feats. All right, what are these going to look like? I don't know. Okay, I like the idea of this guy being like dual daggers, and chucking daggers, right? And maybe stabby, you know, that kind of thing. Like backstabbing, yeah. So he's going to have 2 daggers, and he's going to do, or they is going to do some sort of backstab, right? And the idea behind a backstab would be that when someone is engaged and you are not engaged, you can backstab. And backstab obviously would do like a damage bonus, right? Or like a big damage spike of some sort. Now what's cool is that maybe in the future there might be monsters who are resistant, or there may be monsters who taunt or guard. See, what I like about this is, once again, remember, the rules for monsters and the rules for players don't have to be the same. And that's one of the things I liked about 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons, is that there were powers that monsters had that there was no saving throw. They just happened. You were in its aura, guess what? You're taking its effect. So there might be a monster that has taunt, meaning that as long as it is in the same zone as another monster, that monster can't be hurt, right? And so now it's like, well, this is a puzzle, right? Do I have to kill this monster, or do I have to shove this monster out of the zone and take it somewhere? Or, you know, like, so you can have these little keywords, like in Keyforge or those kind of games, which I think we talked about keywords before, where this monster has taunt, this monster has guard. The only way you're going to know that is either A, by playing, and all of a sudden you realize it really quick when you try and attack something, and you're like, why can't I hit this guy? It's like the DM just says you can't target him. And they have to DM, they have to really RP it in the sense of like the second you start to go over there, this thing is just, you know, in your way. And so then you get the vibe. But you can have stuff like that, which would be really cool. It could also be that like maybe when someone is engaged, it adds a condition. And I've been thinking about conditions in this game, right? Because you have a lot of games that have conditions like prone and immobilized and, you know, all of these different sort of like, you know, blind, etc. I want this game to be accessible. I want it to be simple and easy. And it's not to take away from the thematics of all those, but maybe it could be something as simple as like compromised, right? So it could be that you backstab people with the, I don't know, compromised condition, right? Now, what this, whoops, I spelled that terribly wrong. What this means though is that it doesn't mean that, you know, now everything's generic. Like, why knock someone down if it's just giving them compromise? Compromise might be like the base condition. And then like, so if you're prone, maybe that's compromised and you don't have movement. Or, you know, there could be multiple tags on there. Like if you're immobile, if you're blind, you're compromised and you can't target things. I don't know. Like we're not there yet. But the idea being maybe there's a very generic condition that like in D&D, it's the idea of like advantage. If you have advantage, combat advantage on them, you're good, right? And so it's the same kind of concept, whereas maybe compromise is that sort of umbrella term for you've got advantage on that person, right? And there are a ton of things that can do this. Okay, so that's one ability. This guy's got backstab. He wants to try and move around someone who's engaged with someone else. That's cool. That adds teamwork, synergy, that kind of thing. Throws a dagger, a short distance at 2 targets. This goes into that. I'm just chucking daggers, right? I love chucking daggers. So this now starts to get into the concept of there is a certain spacing that I want to have. That's cool. So I want to make sure that I'm a certain distance from someone, right? I can't be too close. I've got to get away and chuck daggers. But I can do it at 2 separate targets. So there's probably going to be some sort of, soul point cost. Same with this one. I have no idea if the above one, if backstab is if it's something you can just do as long as you're not engaged, or does it, does it cost some sort of, I think of soul points as like effort as well. Not effort, or I think of it as like stamina as well, where it's like I'm exerting myself more to do this action. So the question is, when I do a backstab, is that like an exertion of some sort? When I throw these daggers, is that an extra exertion of some sort? Maybe. We'll see. And then maybe, and so these all go under their striker powers. We did this before. Striker. And let's do a, maybe this person, defender. We'll do defender power. Defender ability. Striker wants to dance around. Parry. How about a parry? Something like parry against attacks. It costs. Once again, it costs stamina. So, costs soul points. And it's maybe you disregard either an attack of opportunity of some sort or a regular attack. So I would think this would definitely cost soul points. So I like the idea, once again, I like the idea of players determining their own fate. So it's one of those things where maybe this is, let me read all this because we're kind of spelling this out as we go. Player decides to ignore full attack prior to rolling, right? So this would be the idea of the big monster is about to swing at me. He might hit really hard. So say this monster normally, maybe this monster has the ability to hit for like 6, right? And maybe this parry costs 2 soul points or 3 soul points, right? So it's still a hefty 3 soul points to use, but I'm not taking this massive damage or taking a condition. We'll have to think about that because this, maybe it's not an auto, maybe it's a bonus. Because auto miss math might be too good. Meaning that if this person's got 30 hit points and this thing only costs 3, that means they could just not get hit for 10 attacks. And depending on the type of encounter, that's crazy. But once again, some monsters might have abilities that don't allow them to be parried. So now that might balance it, right? So maybe small monsters can be parried, like little goblins or something, but a dragon or some sort of ogre that has a giant tree trunk. You're not going to parry that. You'd have to dodge it or something. So maybe that balances it. Or maybe you have to be engaged and by yourself. Maybe it's like a duelist must be engaged and alone, or it's like it's just you and that target. That might be, so now you have some conditions as to when you can do that, so you can't be getting overwhelmed. I like these 2 things here. I don't mind if it's an auto miss if you have to be by yourself with that target and the fact that there will be certain monsters that can't be parried. Then that makes sense to me. That could be fun. That could be fun for the player, because once again, I want the player to feel like they've got control of the narrative, and so if they're able to automatically be missed and take control of that, that's pretty freaking cool. All right, we'll see where it goes. So that's the striker. I think that looks good for the striker. I I think so. We'll see what's next. I think I'm going to do the controller next. And so don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the little bell. And we'll see you next time.